fight. Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain. Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Fixed Fights podcast with Kurt and Ben. We are here again. If you didn't hear last week, we are officially on video. So again, we are going to be on YouTube with video. You can put some faces to the beautiful voices you hear every week. We really appreciate if you follow us and subscribe on YouTube. Fixed Fights podcast, pretty easy, right? So we're going to be on all the normal iTunes, SoundCloud, and now additionally we're going to be on YouTube. Again, we're going to be doing a lot of fun stuff, video interviews, hopefully some fight companions, maybe some live recap stuff. But again, officially we are on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes. Follow us, subscribe. We appreciate it. What's going on this week, dude?
Not much. And I echo all of that. And yeah, like you're saying, like hopefully we're going to get some fun stuff popping off on YouTube, a variety of content in addition to our regular like weekly episodes. And shout out to I guess a couple of guys, my good friend Ross for doing our intro song, the cover to Face the Pain, which is just like perfect. He said that he did it like because when you actually read the lyrics, it's like, shit, this song is kind of fucking sad, right?
It's
like
so
like
funny hearing it like slowed down in like a dramatic, like sappy type version. It's so funny.
Oh, it's perfect. It's perfect. And then to like also if you're only listening, at least get on YouTube and watch our intro video with the song, because shout out to my buddy Justin, who has helped us a ton with the video and I think will continue to help us a ton. But shout out to Justin for putting that song then to, like with our logo coming in over knockouts. Specifically, I told him we are Jon Jones fans, so I think there's a couple Jon Jones highlights in there. 0 Ben Askren lowlights in there, so we're safe. But yeah, shout out to those guys. I'm pumped about what we're going to continue to do with this YouTube channel.
Yeah, shout outs to those guys because I am definitely not tech savvy. I can record the thing and get it up, but as far as editing and putting up videos, not my forte, and I don't believe it's your forte either. So the guys behind the scenes, they're doing work, and we really appreciate them.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, since we're on video and it's Sunday night, go Celtics, baby. Go Celtics. Let's go. They're going to win it. They're going to bring it to a game 7 and hopefully make the finals against the Lakers.
Dude, you should have. Oh fuck! I followed no other sports, and I literally was about to put on my Lakers hat today. But I also own a Celtics hat. I should have. You should
put on the Celtics hat, man.
I'm looking to see if it's like within arm's reach. I don't think it is, but
oh man,
it's a good thing I didn't wear my Lakers hat. One of my favorite hats.
Yeah, screw the Lakers, man. Celtics gonna take home the ship, baby.
I mean, I had zero idea, but yeah.
I got to come in strong, man. I'm a Celtics fan. They need some good luck. They got to bring it back to a game 7 and hopefully make the finals. We'll see though. But this is an MMA podcast, so let's get to some MMA. UFC 253 happened last night. Honestly, it was a pretty damn awesome card. Produced a lot of finishes. We'll start at the top. Israel Adesanya makes it look easy against Paulo Costa, man. We kind of outlined it last week, and me and you were pretty certain that Paulo Costa would come forward. Paulo Costa would bring the fight to Adesanya, and that was not the case. I don't know what the hell Paulo Costa was doing, but what he wasn't doing was throwing punches. He wasn't fighting like himself. He wasn't fighting like the guy that got him to this title fight. But Israel Adesanya, man, can't gush enough about him. Looks excellent, as always, and gets the job done with a big second-round TKO over Paulo Costa.
Yeah, Costa was not even in this fight for a friggin' second, right? Like I felt like he landed 2 strikes, like 2 kicks maybe, that Adesanya seemed totally unaffected by. Man, I thought, and I think the commentary touched on this last night, that maybe Costa was purposely trying to like really, measure his endurance here, being that it was a 5-round fight. Maybe he was concerned about like fading late. But if that's the case, like he was just like the snowball was already going downhill by the time he realized, oh shit, I need to be in this fight. Like I think just 2-3 minutes in, leg kicks had started to add up, and it was like it felt like there was no coming back for Costa at that point, because any aggression that was going to come was going to be kind of desperate at that point. And that's really like how the knockout happened. I felt like as Costa realized, I'm losing this fight really badly right now, I got to do something, and he just started trying to exchange in the middle of the cage, which is definitely not something he ever wants to do. But yeah, credit to Adesanya big time for like never letting Costa pressure him in any like instance. I don't feel like Adesanya was ever like in that moment where he's like, oh shit, I'm against the cage, Costa's pressuring me forward. And just like landed a ton of kicks, which seem to be have no repercussions, right? I don't think Costa checked any. I don't think Costa countered any of those kicks. So Adesanya, man, the absolute realness. Like, yeah, I think Costa is probably super disappointed with his performance, and I think all of us expected it to be at least competitive initially.
Yeah, 100%.
But I don't think any of that should take away from Adesanya just doing championship shit right there.
No, absolutely not, man. I mean, again, going into this fight, I rewatched a lot of Costa's fights. You know, he's 13-0, and he was like a measured Terminator, right? Like he was a quintessential brawler coming forward, but he did it in a measured pace. So I thought it was like the bull and the Matador, very, very intriguing. They're both undefeated, but yeah, man, I mean, there wasn't much to this fight. Adesanya chewed him apart with leg kicks. He was going high. Didn't do a lot with his fists until the very end, but he didn't really have to, right? I mean, Costa was not giving him really any opportunities to counter, which we thought would get him in trouble later in the fight. I believe we both picked a late knockout when Costa started to slow, but I mean, yeah, not really competitive whatsoever. Adesanya gets him out there, gets him out of there in the second round. Dude, honestly, when he dropped him there, I was kind of hoping he'd submit him. I think that would be kind of a funny little parody after the whole the black belt, white belt thing, but he didn't even need to. Finishes him in the second round. There's not really much to break down with this fight, man. It's just he thoroughly dominated him so well. I guess the point we got to make and got to look forward to is what's next for Adesanya, right? If you look at the landscape in the middleweight division, the big fight coming up is Jared Cannonier versus Robert Whittaker, and Jared Cannonier is the guy that Adesanya kind of alluded to after the fight, but he's got his hands full with Robert Whittaker. And if Whittaker does win, do we really want to jump back into an Adesanya Whittaker fight? How do you see the middleweight landscape going right now, and who do you think is next for Adesanya?
So I'm not entirely sure. It does sound like we've already kind of crowned Jared Cannonier as the next contender for whatever reason. And if I remember correctly, Jack Hermanson also said, "Oh, Jared Cannonier's gonna fight Robert Whittaker and probably beat him, and then fight for the title next." Which, in my mind, and I'm like a bit of a Robert Whittaker mark. I kind of pick him in every fight he's ever in. I don't think Cannonier has an easy path to the title
Absolutely
if
not.
it has to go through Robert Whittaker. If he does beat Whittaker, I'm totally fine with that. I think that makes sense for him being the next number one contender. If Whittaker wins, I don't know, man. Adesanya was so dominant in their first fight, and I think he's only getting better now. So it would be hard. Maybe if Whittaker looks phenomenal against Cannonier, maybe I could be sold on a rematch, but I don't know, man. It's Whittaker is in kind of a tough spot right now, especially if he wins that Cannonier fight, because there's not really a ton of options for him outside of Israel Adesanya. Uh,
There isn't, man.
I feel like you also got to remember too, we got Jack Hermanson fighting Darren Till pretty soon.
That's a big one.
So, if the UFC, if let's say Whittaker beats Cannonier and the UFC doesn't want him in an immediate rematch with Adesanya, I guess it would be immediate, but if they don't want to put Whittaker in to fight for a title, you could theoretically have the winner of Hermanson Till fight for the middleweight title, and I don't think anybody would really bat an eye. But yeah, I think if Cannonier wins, you can't deny him a title shot at that point.
Yeah, I think if Cannonier wins, like you said, he is the rightful number one contender. And looking down at the middleweight rankings, it's got to be either Cannonier, the winner. Honestly, Cannonier or the winner of Hermanson, Darren Till, especially if it's Darren Till. But yeah, man, I mean, looking up and down that list, it's really those four guys because the other guys up there, Paulo Costa just got dominated. Yoel Romero, not a fun fight. Derek Brunson, Kelvin Gastelum, Chris Weidman, Uriah Hall. None of those guys are fighting for a title shot or fighting for a title next. So it's got to be the winner of one of these next two fights. And one thing I will respect about Izzy, and he's done this the whole time, he's kind of going with next man up, right? He's not calling out like Jon Jones or Jan Blachowicz or whoever, right? He wins, he calls out the next guy. He won against Robert Whittaker, he called out Costa. He wins against Costa, he's calling out Jared Cannonier. So I respect that. A lot of these guys nowadays are winning their fights and they're automatically going for the super fight, you know, the double champ bullshit that is kind of getting played out by now, right? So I respect Izzy for doing that.
Yeah, I get the sense that he is. I mean, he talked even a bit about like, you know what? Anderson Silva ruled this division for a long time. I think he's kind of that mindset that like for sure at some point I totally expect Israel Adesanya to chase money fights because at some point, probably pretty soon, the UFC is not going to be paying him what he's actually worth. Well, they're probably not paying what he's worth right now, but for sure he's going to be worth a whole lot more. And I'm sure at some point down the line, he will have the negotiating power to like demand those kind of money fights. But right now, yeah, I get the sense he wants to just fight maybe 3 times a year and just in his mind knock off contender after contender after contender. And after this performance, it's hard to say that doesn't seem totally possible, right? Yeah. He's fighting like a guy who's going to defend this belt for a couple years at least.
Yeah, he looks really good, man. There really hasn't been any holes poked in his game, and it's crazy that like out of all these guys that he fought, right? Like the 2 guys that gave him the hardest problems are Marvin Vettori and Kelvin Gastelum. You know, he's fought, now Paulo Costa, Yoel Romero, Robert Whittaker, and the 2 guys that gave him the toughest problems are Marvin Vettori and Kelvin Gastelum. Kelvin Gastelum's lost 3 in a row, and Marvin Vettori is fighting Amari Akhmedov, who's coming off a loss to Chris Weidman. So, kind of a weird landscape at middleweight, but we'll see.
Dude, I think Adesanya is getting better. I mean, especially since the Vettori fight, and I think pretty definitely against the Kelvin Gastelum fight. And I think it's also worth noting Gastelum, if he's lost 3 in a row, I think a lot of that honestly is because of the beating that Adesanya gave him. Like Gastelum is not the same fighter since that fight. I will say, man, one thing I love about Adesanya when we were talking about, you know, there's not a ton of takeaways from this fight. I think something that's becoming super clear about him is if he figures out one weakness, one chink in your armor, it doesn't matter what it is, he's going to press it. And we saw that against Yoel Romero. He kind of just picked apart Yoel Romero with like leg kicks. I mean, people thought that fight was boring, but Adesanya,
same with Costa too.
Same exact thing. He realized, because you said, you know what, Adesanya didn't really use his hands until the second round. And I think that's totally true because he realized, why would I not just continue to leg kick him? Why would I not continue to just debilitate him until like the hands come super easy? And I think that reflects his experience in kickboxing as well. But that kind of mindset coupled with his like obvious like technical skill, and he's not like a heavy hitter or anything, but he's obviously also not a bad athlete by any means. It's just, I was saying this about Robert Whittaker.
Precise, man. He's precise.
I could be totally wrong because I thought Robert Whittaker was going to be middleweight champ for like 4 years, and now look at me. But now I feel like Israel Adesanya is going to be middleweight champ for 4 years. I mean, the middleweight rankings, it's a lot of older guys. Like it's going to take a minute for new contenders, young guys at middleweight to come through. Especially, we just saw Shabazian get his shit kicked in, and who else? Wasn't there another?
Let me look at these rankings right
quick. Who am I blank? He's not even ranked. There was another young middleweight undefeated guy.
Ian Heinisch?
Maybe that's who I'm thinking of.
Ian Heinisch is all the way down at 15.
Maybe that's who I'm thinking of. But it's just, I mean, a lot. That division is getting old right now with Gastelum, Weidman, Brunson, Romero, Brad Tavares. Like, it's going to take a minute for fresh contenders to come up to rise to the top of that division. And I see Adesanya in the meantime mowing down other contenders.
Yeah, I agree with that. Last thing we got to talk about, I think, on this fight is, did you see Adesanya's left breast, titty, pec, whatever you want to call it? Yeah, Tittygate, yeah. What's going on with that, man? I've heard a lot of I heard it like people were thinking it could have been a torn pec, but then again, he was like throwing
I don't know, man.
punches and like beating on his chest. I've heard a lot of things. Maybe he's got like some sort of gyno from maybe shooting some steroids. I don't know, but that looked a little bit weird. A lot of people were talking about it. You have any opinions on it?
I don't. I saw pictures of it. I saw people kind of speculating on the internet before the fight as well, just in photos. I mean, I'm obviously not a doctor, so I got no clue. It could be nothing too, right?
It could be nothing. Yeah, sure.
Like I got a fucking mole on my shoulder. Like, are people gonna look at that and be like, "Is this guy like what's going on?" You know what
steroids.
I mean? Obviously, it's like a different deal, but like, I feel like a lot of people have weird shit going on in their bodies, and we get to look at Israel. We don't get to Israel Adesanya is involved in a sport where he's like half naked all the time, so we get to see weird shit going on with his chest. I don't know what is going on. I assume he hasn't said anything about it. Nobody's like
No,
asked about it.
never mentioned anything about it.
I have no clue.
He doesn't. He also doesn't strike me as a guy that would take steroids, right?
Yeah,
Like, I feel
no.
like there's certain guys I don't know, man. Kind of hard to predict who takes steroids, who doesn't take steroids, and who looks like the guy that does. But he doesn't strike me as a guy that needs to take steroids or, you know what I'm saying, take
Well,
steroids. So
he doesn't if I'm stereotyping, which I'm about to, he's like not from a jujitsu background, and which, let's be honest, like high level jujitsu guys.
Paulo Costa is the guy that you'd figure that would pop for
Yes.
steroids, right? Not Israel Adesanya.
Yes, totally.
I don't
But
know.
who knows? Who knows? I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not looking too much into it. I just know that was a big talking point, so we got to mention it.
Of
All
course.
right, let's move on to the co-main event. Jan Blachowicz gets it done. And frankly, he dominates Dominick Reyes. Dominick Reyes did not look. I don't know. Dominick Reyes didn't look quick to the punch. Jan was measured in this fight. Jan was eating up his body. You saw Dominick Reyes had that nasty welt on his I believe his right side, if I'm not mistaken, right? Because Jan was hitting him with that left body shot. Jan was kind of bursting in different opportunities and eventually finishes him in the second round. Super impressive for Jan and impressive for me because I accidentally bet on Jan twice and he cashed out big for me. So props to Jan. But yeah, I mean, dominating performance and it starts a new era. The first guy since 2011 to hold the title not named Daniel Cormier or Jon Jones.
Yeah, big huge performance and like a feel good story. I mean,
yeah,
Blachowicz started his UFC career 1-4.
I know.
And now he's a fucking champion. It's kind of crazy. I don't know exactly what Reyes's game plan was here. I guess to counter maybe. And he did, like, he at least initially seemed to pull the trigger on counters pretty quickly, but Blachowicz, like, I think scared him off quite a bit with his power and his, went to the body with that kick. But yeah, when Blachowicz blitzed forward, he just seemed like the way more comfortable guy, obviously the more powerful guy, more durable. It just, sometimes I feel like fights match up where it's just like these two guys are going to crash. They're two cars moving forward and they're going to crash, and one car is going to move back and one car is going to continue to move forward. And Blachowicz, like, with all of the skill he has, he's still just, if he wants to just crash in front of Dominick Reyes, he's going to fucking win that fight.
Yeah.
Huge performance, big power. That punch where he like moves Reyes's nose across his face is hard to watch, but beautiful at the same time.
Yeah, Jan put in some work in this fight, man. Busted Reyes up. The one thing that I didn't like about Jan and this fight, as great as the fight was, don't call out Jon Jones, man.
Yeah.
Why did you call out Jon Jones? Own the win, own the moment. Jon Jones left the division, right? This is your time. This is your division. And you're calling out the ghost of Jon Jones. Let him go, right? Like, cement your mark. You just knocked out Dominick Reyes, the guy that a lot of people thought beat Jon Jones, and you're still calling out Jon Jones. Come on, man. I thought he kind of dropped the ball with that, but again, impressive stuff from Jan, man. I'm super happy for him.
Yeah. Like, did he, I guess in his head, he thinks if I get a Jon Jones fight, that's a big fight, but
the biggest fight, but he moved up to heavyweight. Let him go.
Like, he wasted an opportunity to either maybe call out whoever he thinks he's gonna fight next, whether it's Santos or Teixeira. But yeah, it just seemed like a waste. Like, obviously, like, I shouldn't say obviously because Jon Jones is kind of a wild man, but the chances of him going back to light heavyweight to fight Jan Blachowicz seem so
I mean,
preposterous.
you
Yeah.
never know, right? It's Jon Jones. He might see Jan as kind of an
Easy.
easy win. I don't
Yeah.
know, man. Just let him go though. Say forget Jon Jones. This is my
Yeah.
era now. Instead, right after you win, you're already talking about him. You get on the mic and you talk about him. Like, come on. That's the
No,
only ball that I feel he dropped there, but whatever. I mean, it was super impressive from him.
I mean, nobody is going to confuse Jan Blachowicz with a like Conor McGregor or Izzy
True.
Adesanya on the
True.
mic. Like he's not
Yeah,
that.
that's true.
He's not like part of me is not surprised that he called out Jon Jones. Like part of me would not be entirely surprised if you asked Jan Blachowicz if Jon Jones, if like, hey Jan, did you just win an interim title because Jon Jones is still the champion? He'd be like, yeah, I think, right?
Kinda, yeah.
Like, like I don't know, man. But yeah, I feel so good for the guy. It's good to see a story like that, like a bit of a journeyman, a guy who has faced a lot of adversity, and definitely a guy that people counted out a bunch recently.
Yeah, the odds showed it, man. He was a pretty big underdog here.
Yeah, for sure.
So looking at that landscape, I mean, you got the Glover Teixeira, Thiago Santos fight, which keeps getting postponed. I believe it's postponed till one of the cards in October. I don't have the date on me right now, but
I'm finding it.
you also have Alexander Rakic and Yuri Prohashka. I think those are the other two guys besides Santos and Shera right up there. I kind of hope they fight because that fight would be absolute madness. I think those are the four guys that are probably right there for a title shot. Do you have any preference for who you want to see fight Jan first?
Not a huge preference. I'm a big Prohashka fan, but I think he's probably still one fight away.
Yeah, I think he
Um,
needs to fight again.
so I think it's almost certainly going to be the winner of Santos Teixeira, and I guess I'd like to see Teixeira just because that would be another feel good story. And
Sure.
Santos has already fought Blachowicz, right?
Yeah, back in that was actually the one win sandwich between or the one loss, I mean, sandwich between 7 wins that Jan did lose. And I
I mean,
believe he was winning that fight until the third round.
yeah, when Santos, if I remember correctly, just totally blitzed and
Yeah,
went
blitzed him and knocked
bonkers.
him out. Yeah.
So I guess I'd like Teixeira just because it's a fresh matchup. But if Santos wins, like, how are you not going to give him a title shot? So,
Yeah.
I don't have a strong preference. And we talked about it last week, man. I don't see no disrespect to Jan, no disrespect to Thiago Santos or Glover Teixeira. I don't see any of these guys holding the light heavyweight belt for an extended period of time.
Yeah, I don't either.
So
I don't either.
it's kind of like next guy up, next new matchup up, and then let's just see where it goes from there.
And here's the thing in the light heavyweight division. I feel like you have to build the proper contender now. Jon Jones and DC are very popular outside of the MMA bubble, right? Like they kind of transcend MMA. Whereas Jan Blachowicz, Thiago Santos, Glover Teixeira, Yuri, all these guys, like they're not that well known outside of the MMA bubble. So if you put together a Jan Thiago Santos fight, let's say, like that's not going to get a lot of hype. So I feel like you have to build the next contender and build Jan properly to really get this division off the ground because there's no more Jon Jones anymore. At least at this point, there's no more Daniel Cormier. You're kind of starting fresh with a division that there's not a lot of popularity at the top.
Yeah, I mean, continue to put them in the co-main event of pay-per-views like this with like a much bigger star in the main event.
Yeah, true.
I don't think we're going to see light heavyweight title fights as the main event of pay-per-views probably anytime soon. But for sure, obviously, like main event fight nights or co-main event on big pay-per-views like we had here, I think is a good way at least to get new eyeballs, fresh eyeballs. And I mean, man, I watch the fights with, I don't want to say casual fans, but people that are not as dialed into the UFC. And when Jan Blachowicz won by knockout, they all lost their shit, right? So hopefully if it works out, and everybody there was there to watch Israel Adesanya fight.
Yeah.
And then right before that happened, they saw this Polish dude just, wrecking Dom Reyes's world. Like ideally, they then kind of want to tune in next time Blachowicz fights. I don't know how much that works, but I think in theory it should work.
Yeah, I think so too, man. Moving on, Brandon Royval versus Kai Kara France.
Holy fuck.
Holy fuck.
Got
to be a contender for round of the year. That first round was madness. Royval gets dropped, and then I don't even know, hits Kai Kara France with like
that
this.
sequence.
Yeah, that sequence is crazy. Hits him with like this, like he's like rocked on the stanky leg, hits him with like this crazy spinning back elbow into an illegal knee, and the ref doesn't even have a chance to like wave it off because Royval's into like a guillotine, or I'm sorry, Gogo Plata, Omoplata combo. I mean, dude, they give the goddamn flyweight some props, man. You keep trying to delete this division, and it's just it produces great fights. There's a lot of great fighters in there. Brandon Royval's a stud, man.
Yeah, and they put it on the main card finally.
I
Like
love it.
I feel like we often talk about really fun, relevant flyweight fights that are like hidden deep on the prelims.
Hidden
Boom.
gems, man.
You got it on the main card and it was an absolute bananas fight. Part of that is like I was dying in between the first and the second rounds. Royval goes back to his corner and he says, and his corner, I think, said like, "Hey, you're getting hit with the right hand moving in." And Royval says, "I'm doing it again, aren't I?" And it's like, yes, dude, you are running.
Yeah.
Like no complaints for me. It's super fun to watch for sure. But you could tell Brandon Royval that's just in his fucking DNA to move forward and attack. That it's like he didn't even realize, yeah, dude, you're getting tagged by the right hand every time you run forward. But
Doesn't
who
even care.
cares? Yeah, who cares? Because you're then like spin kicking and throwing punches and attacking submissions anytime you touch this guy. Super, super fun. Man, I could see Brandon Royval fight every month and have zero complaints at all.
Well, I think he's positioned himself for a big. I mean, this was a big flyweight fight, but I mean, he's got to position himself up there near the top of this division.
I mean, he
find this
was.
on the
I don't. The rankings have not been updated. He came into this ranked number 9, and Kai Kara France ranked number 7. So yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think how the rest of the flyweight division shakes out. I mean,
Yo, could you
Pantoja,
imagine a
Blachowicz.
Brandon Moreno? I didn't mean to interrupt you. A Brandon Moreno, Brandon Royval fight. Oh my lord!
Because both those guys fight with such aggression everywhere. It's like on the feet and on the ground. And I also saw a stat. I want to say it was Daniel Vreeland, Top Turtle Podcast,
But
pointed
man,
out that Brandon Royval has never shot for a takedown. He has all these fucking submissions. He also doesn't pull guard. So like if it gets on the mat, it's just because it's like he either drops the guy or it's some weird scramble. Which is bananas to think this guy is so aggressive with his submissions, like just immediately attacking from any position, but he doesn't even shoot for takedowns. Like I love this guy.
yeah, it's crazy. And he set that guillotine up this weekend from standing, right?
Yeah, you're right.
He's
100%.
I mean, any of these guys, like you look at the landscape of that division, and Moreno would be a fun fight. Askarov would be a fun fight. Alex Perez, Pantoja, uh, they've had some success. They're right up there. I think him against any of these guys, but I think he's definitely earned himself a big fight against any of these guys. Moreno, Askarov, Perez, Pantoja, Formiga's even up there. Any of those guys, sign me up because Benavidez is about to fight Cody Garbrandt. I don't even know when, sometime soon. But yeah, I want to see Royval in one of those big fights.
I mean, I could get with an Askarov fight. I'm looking right now, and he's coming off a win over Pantoja, undefeated. Yeah, literally any fight. Like Brandon Royval is like a flyweight Justin Gaethje. I feel like
Yeah,
only with like bananas submission skills.
so exciting.
Yeah,
Such an exciting fighter. All right, moving along on the main card, Caitlyn Vera gets a win over Sijara Eubanks. Rights to ship after her last fight with Irene Aldana, who is going to fight this weekend, which we'll get to. Vieira probably with that Aldana win, if she did get it, would have probably been next in line for Amanda Nunes, but with the loss, she kind of takes a step back. Impressive win over Sijara Eubanks, but I don't know. I'm not clamoring for her to fight Amanda Nunes yet, but that's kind of it's kind of how it goes with Amanda Nunes. Amanda Nunes knocks everybody out, so unless you're a huge name, who are you really getting up for against Amanda Nunes?
that's a good point. I mean, Vieira has the physicality, I think, probably to compete, but yeah, you're 100% right. That it's hard to get super excited about any contenders just because Nunes is so good. But I will say, I think Vieira looked really good considering her last fight. Coming off the first loss of her career, and she like didn't seem to have any sort of like ring rust involved. She is definitely, if Nunes ever vacates that belt or loses or something, it'll be one of those situations like right away where, oh shit, bantamweight is fun because we got Caitlyn Vera up there, we got Irene Aldana, you know. But yeah, I thought she looked good here. I also thought like Sajara Eubanks looked good considering she looked way fucking smaller and fought just like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, Vera's a big girl.
Yeah, really big for bantamweight.
Opening up the main card was a fun one between Hakeem Dawodu against Sabira Tokugawa. Dawodu gets a big win. And one thing I got to say with Israel Adesanya, he was pretty upset with after the fight, and you heard him talk about to Dana White about it, that a couple of the city kickboxing guys' opponents missed weight. Shane Young's opponent and Zabir Tukukov missed weight. Israel Adesanya was kind of going to bat for his guys, but nonetheless, Dawodu gets a big win. I think the story of the fight was that weird exchange. I don't know if it was in the third round, right? When Dawodu is basically saying, like, let's fucking go, let's fucking fight. And the ref's like, hey, like, calm down, keep it PC, keep it like, no, dude, we're in a fight. Like, come on. You're on pay-per-view in a fight. They're fighting, like, don't tone him down. Like, stay your course, shut the fuck up and ref the fight. That was my opinion.
I think he was saying that because it was a crowd-free show. Like, I kind of like, how many times have we seen like one of the Diaz brothers be like, just constantly being like, fuck you, Stockton motherfucker.
That's what we love
Stockton.
them for.
I know, but I think the only reason the ref felt obligated to say something is because it was a quiet room. Yeah, like like the uncomfortableness got to him. It's like, oh man, everybody can hear what this guy is saying right now. I gotta like take charge. But yeah, it's like there's no rules that I guess the ref probably has in the rules like latitude to like demand certain things. But yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of it. It's like, dude, shut up. Just let him fight.
Yeah.
If he wants to talk a little shit, let him talk a little shit. Like, and to Dawodu's point, like, Tukugov was kind of giving away that round. He was backing up the whole round. He wasn't engaging. I don't know if he thought he was up 2-0, but obviously he wasn't. You know, he won one judge's scorecard, but he literally didn't do much in that third round.
Well, Dawodu, and I was talking last night when I was watching it to people I was watching it with, that whether it's on purpose or not, Dawodu is a guy who does for sure his best work on the counter. So I think I think like he genuinely gets frustrated when guys don't attack him because he knows, like, I do my best work when guys are attacking me. So I'm not saying he was like purposely, like his game plan was like, I'm gonna call this guy a motherfucker and get him to punch me so I can counter strike. I don't think it was maybe that purposeful, but I do think if you're that good at counter punching, counter striking, you're going to get frustrated when guys don't come at you. And Tukugov, I felt like gave away a really, really close fight in that third round.
I thought he did too, man. I definitely thought he did too. But nonetheless, big performance, big win from Dawodu. Couple props on the prelim card. Brad Riddell keeps it going, dude. Super impressive, man.
What a fight too. Just overall, what a fight. But Brad Riddell, holy shit, that guy is good.
Another bad ref call too. The ref, I believe, stopped the fight on a legal punch that Brad Riddell was not happy about.
Because the
phantom eye poke.
De Silva said, "Oh, it was an eye poke," and it definitely wasn't.
Clean punch.
But yeah, dude, Riddell's kickboxing, his like slip, and then coming back with like a legit like 3-strike combination is just absolutely beautiful to watch. I think as he continues, especially at lightweight, he might struggle against some like good wrestlers. But if he can like keep things on the feet, man, holy fuck, that guy is good.
He's stud, man. He's a stud. Diego Sanchez gets screwed by the judges against Jake Matthews. I'm kidding. Yeah. What can you say? Jake Matthews gets a big win. Ludovic Klein looked really good against Shane Young, gets a knockout. Connecticut's own William Knight gets a big win over Alexa Kamer. And dude, Juan Espino coming back after 2 years away from the sport, gets a scarf hold submission. You don't see the scarf hold a lot, but he gets it done.
No, big boy submission.
Yeah, you got it. Big boy submission.
I love the big boy submissions. Like, there was another big old, what's that guy's name? The really big heavyweight who just made his UFC debut, who's like suplexing a guy like a week or so ago.
He fought. Dude, what was his name? I know exactly who you're talking about.
I like these additions to the UFC. Just like,
Yeah, hell yeah.
I mean, not that Juan Espino is an addition to the UFC. He's a
But he kind of is, right?
winner. At this point, he feels like an
Yeah.
addition to the UFC. But yeah, give
Years
me
off.
the big boys that can grapple and do like basically
Basically
just
Alexei Oleinik.
Alexei Oleinik. That's who I was searching for.
Oleinik type weird
Alexei
shit.
Oleinik type submission. Scarf hold the fuck out of people.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
I love it. All right. Let's put a bow on this week's card and jump to this weekend's card. We got a fight card. It is headlined by the aforementioned Irene Aldana taking on Holly Holm in the main event. After that, it kind of thins out. A lot of fighters without a Wikipedia, but those are generally the cards that produce. We'll start at the top. Holly Holm taking on Irene Aldana. Irene Aldana, it feels like if she does win this fight, she's on a streak. We mentioned that she beat Caitlyn Vera in impressive fashion. You know, she's on 2-fight win streak. I feel like she might get a title shot if she does win, but does Holly Holm position herself for yet another title shot if she does win this? Because she's definitely playing spoiler here.
I think so. I think obviously the UFC loves to put Holly Holm in title fights, so there's no reason to think that they would have any pause whatsoever. And if she wins, she's now on a 2-fight winning streak. You know, it would be. It's hard. Like obviously,
it's hard to say.
It's hard to sell it because she got knocked out. Like it was against Nunes. Their first fight was so definitive, right? Like for a 4-minute knockout. But the UFC fucking loves Holly Holm and UFC title fights. And like, to be fair, like rankings wise, that it would, I think, make sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, bantamweight is so it's a difficult spot right now for new contenders. I think if you really want to see a fresh fight, you got to be praying and hoping for Aldana to win here. But yeah, if Holm wins, I think the UFC gives her yet another title shot against Amanda Nunes.
It's either that or if you look at the co-main event. The co-main event. Juliana Pena taking. I don't want to jump on. We'll go back to our predictions a little bit later. But Juliana Pena is taking on Jermaine Durandamy. Pena has never had a title shot yet, so maybe if Pena does win, they go that route. But yeah, I feel like, somehow, some way, 5 years later, 4 years later, however long it is, they're still kind of riding that Ronda Rousey, Holly Holm knockout where, Holly Holm gets a win and she gets a title shot. I mean, she's had like 13 title shots since that fight. She's like 3-5 since that title fight. But again, I guess she wins the fight she needs to get in that title picture. But she's definitely playing spoiler again this week. I think Aldana is, prime for a title shot if she does win. But how do you see this fight going?
Man, I before I started kind of looking at Holmes and Aldana's recent fights today, in my head I thought Aldana was for sure going to win. And I think a big part of it is she does have some slick boxing. She does have some slick hands, and obviously she has power. Like she has that Caitlyn Vera knockout, which is impressive in its own right. But before Aldana was in the UFC, she was a just absolute stud finisher. That said, man, I'm unfortunately, because I get annoyed with how Holly Holm fights. I think Holm can basically do what she did to Raquel Pennington all over again, which is like move a lot. She does
scream a lot,
a lot of arsh like that every fucking time.
Every single time she throws anything.
a lot of long kicks. I think she's honestly, man, I think she's just gonna stay out of boxing range with Aldana. If they do exchange, like if there's an exchange of punches, Aldana is going to win that 9 times out of 10. I'm pretty positive, and I think she's the harder puncher even. But I see Holly Holm like moving around a lot, throwing a lot of long kicks, and then getting in clinch situations and either trying to take Aldana down or literally just holding her against the cage, which is kind of what she does at this point in her career, man. to be honest. And you couple in the fact that Holm has all this 5-round fight experience. Like,
I know.
I think we're gonna see a Holly Holm bit of a stinker decision. However, if Aldana wins, it might look like Holly Holm versus Valentina Shevchenko, which was just Holly Holm running into counters,
Yeah,
like
true.
for 25 minutes. So maybe she does that. And Aldana does like fight pretty well off her back foot. She does counter well, so there will be opportunities. But man, this is just Holly Holm 101, I think, at this point, which is going to be long kicks, loud grunts, and cage control. That's it.
I'm going Holly Holm too, man. It's so bad. I think she's gonna do it. I just think, after everything, I still think she's a very good fighter with high fight IQ. And this is a fight that I feel like she wins. It's, as good as Aldana is, I don't think she's the elite of the division. And Holly usually succeeds against those fighters. So I think Holly wins a decision with a lot of grunting, a lot of screaming, and she just does what she does, man. And it's so sad because if you look at the rankings, again, we mentioned Durandamy and Juliana Pena are the co-main event. So I think if Pena does win, she might slide into that. But dude, it's like Holly Holm's number 2, Aldana's number 6, and if you even look at the featherweight, there's not even a featherweight ranked besides Amanda Nunes. So
yeah,
I don't know what the hell they're doing.
Well, I think you're absolutely right that if Pena wins, she could, like, it would make a ton of sense for her to fight for a title shot. But dude, I guess I'll give you my pick for Durandamy Pena right now. I think Durandamy just kicks her shit in. I think Durandamy defends just enough takedowns to like totally wreck Juliana Pena's world on the feet. I could be wrong, but I think Durandamy, obviously not a great defender of takedowns, but a lot of people think Pena is this like stud wrestler, and she is not. She's super physical, and super aggressive. But yeah, I think Durandamy wins, and obviously, she's not going to fight Amanda Nunes. I think the UFC will have zero problem slotting Holly Holm back into another title shot for sure.
Maybe they do it at 145 this time. And the thing is, like,
yeah,
or was the last one at 145? I don't even remember. It was at 35, right?
let me see. I got it in front of me. I was at that fight even.
Really?
It was at 135. Yeah, it was that International Fight Week last year.
I'm going Durandamy too, man. And the thing is, like, Durandamy's takedown defense is not all that great, but she did pretty damn well with Nunes on top of her in that last title defense.
She defended herself.
She did,
which is like enough against Pena, because
she's very good. She's very underrated, and a lot of people give her hate after the whole Holly Holm win, and then the subsequent her vacating the title because she didn't want to fight Cyborg. But Pena's not been active. She has fought one time since 2017. She hasn't fought in over a year. I don't see the activity there. I think Durandamy is too good. Yeah, I got Durandamy as well, man.
Yeah, for sure.
After that, it kind of thins out, man. There's a couple fights that I like. I really like the Carlos Condit, Court McGee fight. I think this is a good step back for Carlos Condit to finally get a win. And if not, it's a big name for Court McGee. I think they're both pretty similar in stages of their career. I also like Tom Breeze versus Roman Hopilov as well.
Yeah. It's weird. It's kind of sad that Carlos Condit's on the prelims fighting Court McGee, but here we are. Yeah. I mean, looking down, Luke Boon Mi is a fun, like, so if people don't know, like, her record is only 4-2, but she has a ton of Muay Thai fights, and she like brings really like traditional Thai style skills to MMA, like clinch work. Her clinch like sweeps and throws are really good. So she is definitely like a fun fighter to watch. She has her hands full against Jinyu Fry, who is a former Invicta atomweight champion.
Really good fight.
So that one might be flying under the radar. But yeah, I mean, Casey Kenny is always in fun fights. But yeah, I mean, hardcore fans, I feel like, tune in for the Carlos Condit Court McGee fight for sure.
Yeah. There is also a Bellator card this weekend. Kind of the same thing outside the main event, which is headlined by Paul Daly and Derek Anderson, which should be a fun fight. It kind of thins out. There's a couple names down the board, but yeah, main event solid, but not much after that. But again, those are the cards that usually deliver, right? Tune in regardless. It should be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. When is we should have this information in front of me, or I should. When is Bellator getting back with, like, didn't they schedule more of that featherweight Grand Prix? Like, isn't that,
Oh yeah,
let's
that
see.
thing's still going on, isn't it?
Yeah, like I'm ready for Antonio McKee to fucking fight Darion Caldwell.
Yeah, yeah, dude, I totally forgot about that.
Like
Did it
that should
happen scheduled
be,
out?
I don't know. But I am ready for Bellator now that they're like putting on events. Like I'm ready for them to start putting on events that I get excited about.
Yeah, no, get it
Like
going.
no
Get it going.
no disrespect to Derek Anderson this weekend, but yeah, they have really good fights to be made in Bellator. Give me some more.
They do. All right, let's move on to some odds and ends before we close this up. I think the big thing we got to talk about, and he's usually a big thing when he pops up, is Conor McGregor. He released the other day some text with Dana White, I guess some Instagram DMs that Dana was not happy about. But basically, he was asking for a fight with Diego Sanchez, which I thought was super weird, right? Diego says a bunch of 39-year-old Diego Sanchez still talks about title fights and fighting Conor McGregor, and we kind of laugh it off like, haha, that's just CTE Diego talking, right? But Conor McGregor almost kind of was calling for it, which was kind of weird. I don't want to see Conor McGregor fight Diego Sanchez. And then it kind of comes out that Conor McGregor might be fighting Manny Pacquiao in boxing later next year for some sort of COVID relief fundraiser. I don't know. What's up with Conor McGregor, man?
I don't know. I felt like this was a rare slip up in his like pretty usually his PR for himself is pretty good at like getting people excited to see him again. And I feel like he didn't necessarily realize that, hey, asking to fight Diego Sanchez in 2020 is not a good look for you. Like
Good luck.
you can't go from angling for fights with Justin Gaethje and Tony Ferguson and Khabib to being like, hey, look how cool I am. I asked to fight Diego Sanchez, who just got his shit kicked in by Jake Matthews. Like this was a weird thing. And especially to even releasing the DMs where he asks for the fight and Dana White says we would get our promoter's license taken away. Like
He's right.
yeah, that's such a wild mismatch that people are not interested in. That it's like it was bizarre for, like I said, it felt like a rare slip up for McGregor to release something that made us like look down upon him. Granted, a lot of news comes out about him lately that is less than savory, but usually he's not in control of that message. Here he was in control of the message and like asked for a fight with Diego Sanchez. It was weird. I don't know, man. We talked about this a little bit on Twitter. What are your thoughts on a potential Manny Pacquiao boxing match with Conor McGregor?
I mean, I'm not. I've seen Conor in boxing, right? And I've seen Conor against the top of the food chain in boxing. Like, if you want to do Conor versus Paulie Malignaggi, sure, maybe Conor can win that fight. But Conor McGregor against Manny Pacquiao, who just came off destroying Keith Thurman, I'm not that into it. He's going to get destroyed by Manny Pacquiao, and I don't think Manny Pacquiao is going to be as friendly as Floyd Mayweather was in that fight, because I honestly think Floyd Mayweather might have carried him for a
For
couple of
sure.
rounds. Manny Pacquiao, the savage that he is, I don't think he's carrying Conor for a couple of rounds. So no, I'm not that into it. I guess if it's for charity and fundraisers, like sure, maybe, but dude, I want to see Conor McGregor against Nate Diaz. I want to see Conor McGregor against Tony Ferguson, Dustin Poirier, uh, uh, Justin Gaethje, Khabib. Like that's the fights I want to see. And I get like at this stage in Conor McGregor's career, maybe he's not that dude anymore. He's not the guy that's going to fight the best of the best, but I don't need to see him against Manny Pacquiao, man.
So I'm gonna play devil's advocate here because I agree with you for the most part, and I like totally agree with you that in terms of what the fight itself would deliver, yeah, Pacquiao would not carry McGregor like Mayweather did.
No.
And McGregor would just get demolished. And then I honestly think then we would be done with seeing McGregor in boxing. But man, like I said, to play devil's advocate, if the other options, like I'm thinking of McGregor's fight with Cowboy. Yes, that was a big pay-per-view. Yes, it was fun, but the UFC is clearly like concerned with McGregor getting too big for his britches. Like the promotion for
He's
that fight,
already too big for his britches.
the promotion for that fight was like so one size fits all. Like they promoted Conor McGregor like any other fighter. And now I learned that he wants to fight a guy like Diego Sanchez. Like I do not want to see McGregor in this boring ass UFC promotion, especially if he's not even going to be in super fun fights. If he's fighting Nate Diaz for a third time, I would much rather see that than a Manny Pacquiao fight because the back and forth, the promotion would be super fun. There's nothing the UFC can do to screw that up. But if he's just going to fight guys like Cowboy or, God forbid, Diego Sanchez, I would so much rather see McGregor doing the like full like worldwide press tour, whatever it needs to be, and just being himself a little bit more in fighting Manny Pacquiao. But yeah, in terms of like the actual fight, like yeah, for sure I'd rather see McGregor against like high level welterweights or lightweights in MMA. But yeah, and also like it's not like lightweight at the UFC really needs McGregor right now. Like there's so many other fun fights to be had that it's not like he's needed there, but
it doesn't need him. But okay, so let's jump to this news. It seems like the UFC wants to book Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal. We talked about it last week. Like that's the fight 100%. Like it makes sense. I'm all for that. Guess who's going to be hanging out without a fight? Nate Diaz. Guess who's 1-1 against each other? Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor. I would much rather see Nate Diaz, Conor McGregor 3 than Manny Pacquiao, Conor McGregor. And okay, if my choices are Manny Pacquiao, Conor McGregor, or Diego Sanchez, Conor McGregor, sure, I'm picking Conor versus Manny, but like, dude, give me Nate Diaz and Conor. It's away from the belt. They got a rivalry. It's going to make you a boatload of money. I don't know what their hesitation is for making that fight. I'd rather see Colby versus Masvidal. That fight makes more sense at this point for the division. They got some heat. They got a rivalry. We already saw Nate versus Jorge. Dude, just do Conor versus Nate 3. Just set it
yeah,
up, man. Big
yeah,
fight. Make some money.
that's for sure my pick of any fight in boxing or MMA for McGregor is a Diaz trilogy fight. Also, like I was saying, they can sell the fight no matter what. Like their back and forth is gonna be excellent because they have this history already. But also, like, lest we forget, those two fights were fucking phenomenal. Like, take everything else
They were
apart,
great.
what they said outside of the cage. Those are two really, really good fights that deserve a third fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just based on action alone. Yeah. Sometimes it feels like the UFC just has everything out in front of them, or Conor McGregor has everything out in front of him, and it just seems so perfect. And then we realize that he is trying to fight Diego Sanchez and or Manny Pacquiao in boxing.
I think about it like this though. You remember when you were young and you wanted to go play with your friends and your mom said no because you got school tomorrow or whatever, and you threw a big hissy fit and cried and complained. I feel like Conor McGregor's like that. Conor wants Khabib. He wants a title fight at heavyweight and middleweight and welterweight, and he doesn't get it, and he cries and threatens retirement and threatens Manny Pacquiao and wants to fight Diego Sanchez. I feel like Conor at this point might just be a big baby, and if he doesn't get his way, he goes to all these ludicrous things where it's either retirement or beating up 40-year-old Diego Sanchez because it's an easy fight. But I don't know. I don't know if he's hard to work with. That's just my opinion. But
he is, to take that metaphor a step further, because I think he also recently, quote unquote, retired, right? Like he's like his retirement is like when your parents are like, no, you can't play any more N64, and you're like, fine, I'm running away. And your parents are like,
yeah, go for it, right?
yeah,
Because they
I'm
know
pretty
you're not
sure.
going to do it.
Yeah, my parents are like, go, like, call us when you get there. Like, fine. And it's like, that's kind of what McGregor does with retiring. It's like, because I'm pretty sure he said he had retired like just a few months ago, and obviously nobody believes that for a fucking second.
But here's the thing. You have Israel Adesanya who's coming up. Kamaru Usman and Jorge Masvidal just did 1.3 million buys. Like, it's not all about Conor anymore. You still have Jon
Yeah.
Jones. Jon Jones making a heavyweight debut is going to do big. Like, I feel like Conor doesn't always have the upper hand nowadays. And I
Slipping.
think it's slipping, right? Because obviously Conor McGregor versus me or you is going to do a shit ton of money, whether it's going to be a wash. Like we're getting knocked out in 5 seconds, but it's still going to be a lot. Yeah. People still want to see it, but it's not all about Conor anymore. There's big fighters. There's people on the rise, dude. Colby versus Masvidal. That's going to be big money, man. That's got some heat. People don't like Colby. People love Masvidal right now. That's got some heat, man. So we'll see. It makes too much sense, bro. Dude, Conor versus Nate, man. I don't know, but we'll see, man.
Yeah, I'd be all about it. And I'm kind of surprised Conor doesn't want that. I mean, I know, like, I think it's a pretty winnable fight for him still. I know that their rematch was a hard win for him, but I think Nate is
close win.
Yeah, I think Nate is slipping now. You know, he got beat pretty badly against Masvidal. So,
yeah. Well, Nate's in the same spot as Conor. It's like you want what you want, but if it doesn't happen, like you can't just cry about it. Like move on, shit or get off the pot, right? Like if you guys don't want to fight, go ahead and retire. Like stop crying. Stop crying if you're grounded, right? Like get off the pot, fight each other. Like what do you want? You know, it gets tiresome. And I think MMA, the fans in general, the hardcore fans that are in the know, they're kind of tired about it.
Oh, for sure. He's been, you know, his cachet especially with hardcore fans has been slipping for some time. I'll be totally honest, man. I think probably the most likely scenario is that Conor McGregor is not in action for the rest of 2020. Yeah. But if I had to guess what his next fight will be, I honestly feel like it's going to be Manny Pacquiao. Like,
yeah, I think so too. It seems like, and I think Pacquiao's camp came out and said like, that's the thing, right?
Yeah, they're all about it. So like when McGregor Mayweather was being talked, I felt like it was Mayweather's camp that was like wishy-washy about it. But now you got Pacquiao seems like all about it. He saw how much money you could make boxing this guy. Like, why not?
I mean, but you also got Errol Spence, Sean Porter, Terrence Crawford. Like, do I really want to see Manny Pacquiao fight those guys, or do I want to see him fight McGregor? It's like, I don't know, man.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a boxing fan, you got to hate this. But
what are you going to do, right? Like,
yeah.
Beggars can't be choosers. Like, I want to see Conor fight. I don't think it's going to be particularly competitive against a Manny Pacquiao, but I don't know. I've been wrong before. I've been wrong a lot before, but
have you considered Conor's left hand though, and the angles?
I have. Have you ever seen Manny Pacquiao fought in boxing?
Oh, he also has a left-handed angle.
He does, and he has about 68 boxing fights to back it up.
Oh, that's right.
It's like you put Conor and Manny in an octagon. Like, is Manny gonna win that fight with his left hand? Probably not, because he's gonna get taken out and choked out. You know, like I don't know.
Spin kicked. Like he's gonna get kicked in the fucking leg one time and be like, nope,
and fall down. Yeah, I'm good. I just want to use my hands. I don't know. We'll see, man. It's Conor knows how to keep his name in talks, right? That's one thing he's very, very good at besides fighting. He knows how to keep himself in people's mouths.
Yeah, he gave us a classic big pay-per-view tweet storm this time. So
yeah, he did. Yeah. All right. I don't think we got anything else, man. I was looking at the news. I think we got it all. You got anything else for us?
That's it. Just subscribe to our YouTube channel, guys.
Yeah, please. We need the subscriptions. We're going to be pumping out a lot of content. It's going to be a lot of fun. But until next week, enjoy the fights this weekend. Hit us up wherever you can find us. We're all over the place. Thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain.